I'm back. I'm back. I'm thinking about launching a series between now and election day, perhaps once a week, called Successor to Bernie Sanders. Because let's face it, he's 78 years old, will be 78 years old this year, um, 79 years old. And while I always thought it was bullshit when people say, "Oh, he's old," 2016, they say, he's old." Well, I will respond 4 years ago as I responded this year. I responded in 2016. You're going to say Bernie Sanders is old, but you had no trouble with Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump being not that far apart, even though they're slightly younger. They're still in the same age group. But sir, for some reason, Bernie Sanders is old, but Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump isn't. Or in 2020, um, Michael Bloomberg or Joe Biden or Donald Trump once again, or even Elizabeth Warren. All of them are in the same age group. They're all in their 70s. It's okay for them to be in their 70s and run for president, but wrong for Bernie Sanders. Like everywhere you turn around, there's all kinds of anti Bernie Sanders bias. Well, I want to talk about what happens after Bernie. Um, because the thing about it is that there is an accusation, whether it's fair or not. Frankly, it's kind of not fair, but and I know I myself give this impression that Bernie Sanders is a cult of personality. Let me just state why that's even though I understand why people will draw that conclusion, why they are wrong. What makes Bernie Sanders unique, even though he ran inside of a Democratic primary, he's unique because he is an independent. He ran as an independent for the U.S. House of Representatives. Well, prior to that, mayor of Burlington and House of Representatives, and then the U.S. Senate. He would ideally love to run on an independent slate outside the Democratic Party. For myself, I would even support that more than he would. But I understand why he entered the Democratic primaries. Um, he he wants to make a meaningful impact within the Democratic Party because whether for better or worse, a lot of people think that the Ralph Nader movement is was largely a failure. No, that wasn't a failure. What was a failure was Al Gore choosing Joe Lieberman and Al Gore campaigning as Republican-lite, as most Democrats do, especially when they run for president. And for some people just can't reason they cannot reconcile that problem. So, what makes Bernie Sanders unique is the fact that he's outside the two-party system that challenged the two-party system order. So, I'm thinking that we need a successor to the movement because in my opinion, I don't think he'll be running for reelection in 2024. And if he wants to run for reelection in 24, guess what? I will support him as I have supported him since the 1990s, since 1990. But it is the still the relatively early 21st century, about to border the mid 21st century. So, who will become the successor to Bernie Sanders? And there are several people that comes to mind. But first, I want to discuss former state senator Nina Turner of Ohio. Um, when Hillary Clinton ran in 2016, she was an early supporter until she got acquainted with Bernie Sanders, and she decided Bernie Sanders was all for the people, and and not so much so with Hillary Clinton. So in 2016 and 2020, she became a campaign surrogate for Bernie Sanders. She's pretty much, as a matter of fact, when it comes to talking about the problems of income inequality in this country, she pretty much would tell you what needs to be done. And unfortunately, we have a two-party system that will not listen. Just recently, she was interviewed on Status Coup, hosted by Jordan Sheraton, and I love what she said about holding the Democratic Party hostage. And she says basically what she was insinuating is that the Democratic Party, just as the Republican Party were kind of successfully taken over by the Tea Party movement, as obnoxious as I'm sure she think it was, and I sure as hell thought the Tea Party movement was obnoxious. It was. It was an unpleasant mob of people with ass backwards politics. Maybe not all people. Maybe there were some outliers within the Tea Party that were genuinely libertarian. I'm not a libertarian, but that had libertarian inclinations that wanted good things like that overlaps with the left, like being anti-war, being against the drug war, the surveillance state, that sort of thing, being for civil liberties. And as I said, I don't agree with Ron Paul on a lot of his economic positions, but there are positions that the Ron Paul movement during its heyday advocated that's shared by the left. As I said, the anti-war, the foreign policy issues, the drug war, domestic civil liberty issues, the surveillance state, and some people on the left will be like, "What are you doing, saying good things about Ron Paul?" But you know what? He was correct, and as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, Bernie Sanders and Dennis Kucinich and people like Dennis Kucinich and Bernie Sanders were glad to work with Ron Paul, and Ron Paul was glad to work with Dennis Kucinich and Bernie Sanders, and because there were some things that you can unite with people across the spectrum with on your terms. For Bernie Sanders and Dennis Kucinich, when Ron Paul worked with them, it was on their terms, and vice versa with Ron Paul. When Dennis Kucinich and Bernie Sanders were working with Ron Paul, it was issues and interests on his terms. I have no problem with that from either side, as long as good things get done. My point I was going to make is that with regard to the Tea Party, and she was telling Jordan Sheraton that what needs to be done, if the Democrats want to be meaningful, they need to take over the progressives, the insurgent social democratic movement. Not her words, mine. Needs to go and take over the damn party. And we need to do what the Tea Party did to the Republicans. We need to do that to the Democratic Party, because just you know we need to go and take it over. We need to primary these stand for nothing corporate goons that sits there and shit on progressives. We progressives should say enough of this crap, enough of it. We should go and AOC was initially calling to challenge corporate Democrats, but she walked away from that. And that's what you don't do. You don't walk away from things like challenging corporate centrists. If you're going to work inside the Democratic Party, you better work inside the Democratic Party to take the Democratic Party away from being Republican-lite and making the Democratic Party a social democratic party. That is what you do. That is what Bernie Sanders has been trying to do. That's what Nina Turner is trying to do. And that is what the movement is supposed to be about. I don't want a Democratic Party controlled by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer just to play patty cake with congressional Republicans and put on a show that you supposedly hate on Donald Trump, but then you go and vote for his fucking legislative agenda. I'm not impressed with that. I grow more tired of that approach, and it has sickened me. It has sickened me during my half a century living, seeing the last 30 years of my political awakening, seeing the Democratic Party capitulating to the Republicans all the time on their corporatist and neoconservative terms. So, you know, I hope to see Nina Turner more on television. I hope to see her more on social media, more on television, and I hope to see her a member of the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate or a governor in Ohio, and hopefully, and perhaps a serious presidential contender who can, ideally love to see her defeat Donald Trump in 2024 if Donald Trump is still the president then, or whomever the Republican running. In a way, probably all the sweeter if it's an asshole like Mike Pence. Um, but Nina Turner could be very well a successor, and there are other people. I'm not just saying it's just her, but I'm just saying that I am impressed with her, and I think that maybe between now and election day, I'm going to mention all the possible successors to Bernie Sanders that can lead the movement. And I think that Nina Turner is one hell of a street fighter. We need more of that, whether you're street fighting within the Democratic Party or you're doing it outside the two-party system. I'm Bernie Bro. I'm here to always share with you my insight and what I call the social democratic way. If you like what you heard, you can say thumbs up. And if you don't think it's so hot, you can say thumbs down. But tell your friends and about this channel, and feel free to subscribe as well. And until then, peace.